Hello dear friends, I return to mystery today because this channel is about alternative journalism and mystery. But every once in a while you have to talk about economics when there is important news. Opinion piece. A UFO disarmed 2 Iranian fighter jets. It disabled their weapons and they tried to fire. They suggest some sort of telepathy or precognition. Military pilot talks about the secret space program. People disappear due to time cracks. Time slips are real in the world. Why are there so many mysteries and unexplained events? Navy officials claim UFOs are ET origin. Let's start. A UFO crippled the weapons and electronic systems of 2 Iranian military aircraft attempting to shoot at it. Arjun Walia reported in Collective Evolution. Residents of Tehran, Iran, noticed that a large, bright object in the sky in 1976, that the airport traffic controller also noticed it. Military aircraft were scrambled and the cat and mouse game was initiated. The airport traffic controller also noticed that it was an intensely bright object that wasn't supposed to be there. The Iranian Air Force under the Shah of Persia was contacted, and 2 McDonnell Douglas F-4 Phantom II fighter jets were dispatched to verify the object. Both F-4 interceptor pilots reported seeing the object visually. It was also tracked on their airborne radar. That both aircraft experienced critical instrumentation and electronics went offline at a distance of 25 miles from the object. The report describes how the smaller object, after separating from the larger object, turned within the arc of the F-4 and then recovered the original object. This incident lasted several hours. Here is an excerpt from the report. In quotes, Iranian Air Force jets and UFO playing cat and mouse with them appeared on radar, crippling their weapons and electronic systems as the aircraft attempted to open fire on it. As the F-4 approached to within 25 nautical miles, it lost all its instrumentation and communications. When the F-4 moved away from the object in singular, and was apparently no longer a threat to it, the aircraft regained all of its instrumentation and communications. Another brightly illuminated object emerged from the original object. The second object hit it directly toward the F-4. End of the report. In the 1960s and the 1970s, the US offered Iran the sale of several long-range heavy fighters to equip its air force due to the threat of Soviet expansion in the region, which was realized several years later in the invasion of Afghanistan. Iran purchased 225 F-4Ds, F-4Es and RF-4Es, as well as 40 of the F-14 Tomcat long-range heavy fighters, but many Iranian F-4s have become unserviceable due to wear and tear and lack of supply of spare parts and new engines from the US because of the arms embargo against Iran. Chinese and Russian missiles, a serious problem for lazy US fighters. The Air Force Combatant Command's level of readiness for a hypothetical war worries the Pentagon. After decades of bombing virtually defenseless targets from lush, comfortable bases, its numerous squadrons have become lazy. Forbes believes this laziness in one of the Air Force top commanders could cause it to face big problems in a fight with a tall opponent such as China or Russia, argues David Aikes, a military specialist, in his column for the Medium. Other cases. This type of splitting in two was also observed in an incident near the airport in Aguadilla, Puerto Rico, in April 2013. The incident was filmed, and a team of analysts working with the Scientific Coalition for the Study of UFOs, a private group of scientists, military analysts, and researchers, produced a report analyzing the incident. A Malmstrom Air Force base in March 1967, a base that was responsible for a large number of nuclear weapons, several military witnesses saw a bright red UFO hovering just outside the main gate. After that happened, all the nuclear missiles were shut down, and they were completely dead. This incident was not isolated, and there are multiple examples. Objects splitting in two, traveling at speeds impossible for any human aircraft, performing impossible maneuvers, and exhibiting other amazing behavior, but it is nothing new. The most interesting thing about the Iran incident is that the objects seem to know when aircraft are trying to shoot at them and can't avoid it. This suggests some kind of telepathy or precognition. It is also troubling that we are attempting to fire on an object that doesn't appear to be performing threatening maneuvers. Undoubtedly, their behavior represents potential air safety issues. There is evidence to suggest that the governments of the world have been quite interested in capturing some of these objects, and indeed have been successful, but have not managed to decipher all of their exotic technology. Sightings. Are they real? Sightings have been recorded for many centuries. The first UFO sighting was recorded in 1440 before Christ, when the ancient Egyptians recorded the sighting of fiery disc in the Thule papyrus. However, the most compelling UFO sighting came in April 2020, when the US Navy released a series of videos of a plane traveling at hypersonic speed. They chased it, tried to track it, and lost it. One of the NASA's top scientists, Professor Silvano Colombano, has openly admitted that aliens had visited Earth, but we don't know because they may not look the way we imagine them. He also argued that many UFO sightings cannot be denied or explained. According to Colombano, we have been looking for beings from other worlds based on our assumptions, and they may not be far wrong. In theory, we only know our technology, and therefore we couldn't imagine a technology that could have been produced by a more advanced civilization that has been living for millions of years before the existence of mankind. Not terrestrial. Navy officials claim Pentagon UFOs are not terrestrial. Retired Navy officials have made a startling revelation that UFO sightings that have repeatedly violated airspace possess technology 1,000 years superior to that of the US. Last April, the famous TikTok incident was one of three videos released by the Pentagon showing images of unexplained aerial phenomena taken by Navy pilots. At least 6 pilots encountered the mysterious object as it flew at high speed over the Pacific near Mexico on November 14, 2004. The way it moved was led to speculation that it was a UFO, and it has become a key piece of evidence. We are at a very important moment in history, as all the evidence seems to show that we are being visited by civilizations from other worlds, or that they have been among us for a long time. Be that as it may, it is clear to Navy officials that UFOs are of external origins. Pilot's testimony. An ex-military pilot says he saw UFOs daily for a couple of years. An ex-US Navy pilot has claimed that encounters with unidentified flying objects were common during these years of military service. Reports of UFOs have become widespread after the Pentagon confirmed the authenticity of leaked footage showing a plane interacting with a mysterious object. Since then, the Army has opened up about this taboo subject. In a new 60 Minutes report, former Navy pilot Lieutenant Ray Graves said UFO sightings were part of his daily routine. Graves told media outlet that pilot training off the Atlantic coast came into contact with unidentified objects every day for at least a couple of years. Graves confirmed that the sighting occurred daily after his interviewer Bill Whitaker of CBS expressed astonishment at the claim. The former military pilot said he wasn't sure that the objects were, but that they should be considered a security threat. One encounter captured on a target camera by members of Graves' squadron shows a sphere-shaped vehicle spinning and moving at high speed, apparently without releasing an exhaust plume. According to Graves, the pilots believed the puzzling objects are either secret US technology, high-tech surveillance vehicles operated by adversaries, or something not from the Earth. However, he said he thought the most likely explanation was that the unidentified flying objects were from a threat observation program. Secret space program. Military pilot Daryl was recruited into the secret space program when he worked with Kruger, the Solar Guardian, and the Duck Fleet. James Rink reports. Excuse me. His military career began in January 1999 when he joined the Navy to serve in Naval Mobile Construction Battalion 7, where he served in the Middle East as well as 2 years of service at the Royal Air Force Joint Maritime Force base at St. Mogan in the UK. During this time, he escorted executives to the subway part of the base, where he encountered great beings and exotic technology that could scam their bioscience. He also encountered Michael Aquino, small people in cages, and had an argument with a reptile that resulted in a punishment of forced slavery in the moon mines, and then was forced to squash insects of Mars. Not all his experiences were bad. For 5 days he was granted German citizenship on his home world, and was even given a German wife, which almost never happens with Americans. At the end of his service, he was debriefed throughout mirror technology and told some things that would happen in the future. including civil unrest and his appearance on a show called Super Soldier Talk. Chasing planes. Proof that they follow planes. Blogger and UFO hunter Scott Waring has revealed another strange-looking phenomenon detected from an aircraft in the skies over Karachi, Pakistan. According to an eyewitness account on Waring's blog, the plane was cruising at an altitude of 35,000 feet when those on board noticed the bright white round object in the air above and to the right of the plane. The witness said it was difficult to discern the speed of the object and that it could have been hovering or moving slowly. That is the most focused Foo Fighter photo in the history of UFO research, stated Waring. Proof that they are still tracking aircraft and monitoring the activities of mankind. Australia. Australian claims he has proof they are real. UFO sightings have increased during the health crisis, which experts say could be attributed to people spending more time in rural areas and seeing things they never noticed before. However, Dr. Roger Stankovic, Australia and New Zealand director of Mutual UFO Network, says up to 10% of sightings have no logical explanation. One Australian man claims to have proof that they exist and even posted a video of what he believes to be a spacecraft from an outside civilization. Josh Sear told local media he was flying a drone on the Gold Coast, Queensland, when it suddenly dropped as if it had hit a wall. The collision was accompanied by an incredible loud explosion, Sear said. After taking the drone home, he reviewed the footage it captured and now noticed an unknown large object the size of a car. After examining the video several times, Sear said that he concluded that the drone had hit a UFO. The video, which he posted online, shows a round object hovering in the sky. Sear claims that below the spot where the mysterious object was seen is a perfectly round pool of water with no algae, indicating that something is disturbing it. Lost in time. Researchers says thousands of people mysteriously disappear because of time cracks. Many people have traveled around the world for pleasure, business, visiting friends or family, or fulfilling their dream of visiting some exotic and welcoming faraway land. But there were some of who never returned home and disappear off the map, with clues that seemed to lead nowhere, scant evidence of what became of them, and in some cases a lack of cooperation from the authorities themselves, reports Esoteric Paranormal World. The slips are real. A researcher claims thousands of people are lost in the past after falling through cracks in time. Rodney Davis says the phenomenon of so-called time slips, where people are convinced they have time traveled, is all too real. Davis wrote the 2019 book Time Slips, Journeys into the Past and Future, in which he discusses the phenomenon of time and its enigmatic nature, and recounts the astonishing experiences of those who have found themselves inexplicably in yesterday or tomorrow. The British researcher also suggests that many of the ancient deities were actually time travelers who, having discovered the technique of time slippage, returned to bring practical skill and moral guidance to earlier civilizations but found that their selfish benevolence created unexpected problems for them. But now he has gone further and claims that thousands of missing persons have been victims of time rifts. Why are there so many mysterious and unexplained events? We know the answer to that question. We are not told the truth because many of us can't handle the truth. The general public certainly can't because they have no basis, background or perspective to understand it. They don't know that a war is being fought for our planet, for our very survival. If the truth were told, our tooth would curl, and someday we will get it. But we know that if a plane disappears in mid-air, there is a good reason for it. We are being protected. Mental control. Scientists design magnetoprotein capable of remotely controlling brain and behavior. In a 2016 experiment, proteins synthesized in a virus were inserted and injected into the brains of mice to ultimately control the brain's reward and motivation centers via magnetic fields. The theology professor warned in 1995 about magnetized particles that would turn recipients into zombies. Fear is the mind killer. The noose hangs gently around our neck. Every day it gets tighter. By the time we realize it is strangling us in the hanging tree, it would be too late. Those who gradually and cheerfully sacrifice their freedom, their autonomy, their individuality, their livelihood, and their relationships on the altar of the common good, have forgotten that this is the pattern followed by every totalitarian regime in history. UK government science advisors admit to using scare tactics to control people. UK scientists working as advisors of the government have expressed regret for using what they now admit to be unethical methods to instill fear in the population in order to control behavior, according to a report. The comments were compiled by author Laura Dodsworth for the book State of Fear, which explores the actions of the British government. The London Telegraph reports comments made by members of the Behavioral Science Group and the Government Advisory Subcommittee. The anonymous scientist adds that the way we have used fear is dystopian. The scientist further confessed that the use of fear has definitely been ethically questionable. It has been like a strange experiment, but in the end it backfired because people got too scared. So, let us get out of fear and doubt. Let us trust that everything will fall into place and that we are going to a better world. Let us say, calm and sensible. The time for waking up, fighting, arguing is over. Let us rather prepare ourselves for the time after, when we will have to console our fellow men, when we will have to explain to them what will be shown. Not everyone will be able to understand this immediately and realize that the dark side had in mind for us. And very important, put positive thoughts into the morphogenetic field of humankind. The Great Awakening. Welcome to the Great Awakening by Coach Jerry. There are points of markers in human history that are harbingers of radical changes, both in social structures and in enlightenment. We are all currently participating in such period, which will be marked on the calendar of history as a time of global change and collective change of our species. A part of that, and an important precursor to this change that is currently gaining momentum, is the ongoing erosion of the official narrative, or a collection of successive narratives, most of which have been maintained as a kind of corral to control society along predetermined paths. This incredible geopolitical transition will have a positive impact on every aspect of our lives, from banking and financial institutions to the medical and pharmaceutical industry, for transportation and energy to our future elections, as well as our judicial system and beyond. Everything will change for better permanently and for God's sake. However, during this current period, there is still some power in the old government structure before its final demise. The more this film unfolds, the more we can witness the genius of the plan. The coalition's main goal seems threefold: to shut down human trafficking, to operate quietly behind the scenes in stealth mode, and to limit as many victims as possible, especially private citizens. Cyber attacks and fake nuclear scare event would crash the stock market and shut down the internet. The dark side is expected to continue its cyber attacks over the next 2 months, as the coalition continues to dismantle financial systems and bring in currency reset. The emergency broadcast system would be activated by cyber attacks, followed by Project Odom. I lost. Excuse me. I found. The emergency broadcast system would be activated by cyber attacks, followed by Project Odom's new quantum internet that would flood the airwaves with uncensored social networking and documentaries. The world's financial and communication systems would change from darkness to light. We don't know what's coming. This is the final, the end part. Is patience a virtue? Patience is like air in a sealed room. No matter how much you have to begin with, it eventually runs out. Time and patience are running out fast for the supposed purveyors of intelligence. They say misinformation and disinformation is thrown around to get rid of the bad guys. If I were an intelligence provider, I would be thinking long and hard about what information I am giving people. Karma can be devastating to those who make mistakes. There will be a lot of traders leaving. Charlie Ward said that 4,000 bankers have been arrested right now because they got in the way of the QFS and got everyone to change. They are masters of obstruction. Little has changed since 9/11. While we think we know what is coming, we don't know what is coming in detail. We are going to be as surprised as everyone else by some things and also delighted by many things. The world is obsessed with what is happening now, because the fate of the US determines the fate of all the other nations under its influence. This process is dramatic and historic, and it's hard not to get a little excited watching this. We know what will happen in broad strokes. All nations are returning, humankind is returning, and best is yet to come. The mindset will change as humanity in general begins to recognize the truth of our reality. The doors are opened, the lights is turned on, and the view changes radically. Patient minds have created an unhealthy world without our consent. I remember France's mantra: Enough is enough. We do not consent. The power is ours. Thanks a lot, dear friends.